So as a child, I was actually kind of whimsical, a bit spiritual. I remember talking to, imaginary friends, which I've come to realize were not necessarily imaginary friends when I was a child. I just always remember feeling as a child like I had so much support and always the sense of knowing that I was here to do something to help people, to bring people closer to God. That's something that I can always remember feeling. So as I grew up, I wasn't in a religious household at all. My mom was an atheist, so I didn't have a lot of religious concepts around. I didn't really understand how people viewed God, but I always felt close to God and always felt like there was a purpose and a calling in that direction. So as I got older, thought that Christianity was the way that I should be going, probably because I was born in the United States. And so I went towards Christianity, and a neighbor, when I was about 12 years old, took me to church for the first time, and I went, and did the altar call, and I committed my life to God. But because I didn't have any structure of this in my household, I didn't really begin practicing until I was an adult. But around 18, I was dating a boy and we were getting ready to move in together. And my mom, at the time, I guess, had just had a spiritual awakening, which I didn't know about. She hadn't shared that with me until much, much later. But she had invited a bunch of people over that I had never seen before, and they were doing a channeling circle, which I had never heard of. I had no concept of what this meant at all. And as I was about to leave the house, one of the ladies in the circle asked me if I'd like to receive a message. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I would, sure, I'll sit down and receive a message. And when she turned around to look at me again, I realized there was something different about her. It was still her, but her expression had changed, kind of how she looked had changed a little bit. Even her voice that she was using had changed a bit. And this kind of freaked me out, but she began to tell me that she was channeling Mary Magdalene and that she had a message for me. And then she began to tell me about my life. And she essentially said, the person that you're with now, you will not remain with. You will end up not being together, and you will meet your soulmate, and you will go on to have children with this person. But also, as you go through your life, you're going to have a terrible illness that's going to make you very sick and cause you a lot of issues with your stomach. And then she paused for a moment and she looked at me with the saddest expression on her face. And at the time, I was kind of so taken aback by the whole message that I didn't really even question it, but that was kind of the end of the message. And so I always kept this stuff in the back of my mind. I didn't believe in it. I didn't think there was any way that she would know. I mean, I went on to marry the guy that I was with, so I'm like, oh, she's wrong, obviously. But as I started going through my life, it turned out that she was right. We didn't stay together. I met my soulmate. We got married. We had 2 kids, and I got very, very sick. And I was very sick for about 15 years with an autoimmune disorder. I was in and out of the hospital. I couldn't work a normal job. I mean, I kept my career going only because my company was so amazing at supporting me, but there were periods of time where I was not working for 6 months out of the year off and on. It was bad. I couldn't drive sometimes. I couldn't walk sometimes. My illness had just completely ravaged my body. At the time, I began to be addicted to pain medication because that was the only way that I could live my normal life. And I was really just kind of going through the motions. I had beautiful kids, an amazing marriage, an amazing career, a beautiful life, but I just had this illness that was just ravaging my body. And then when my son was 19, he unexpectedly passed away. He had moved out of the house on a Saturday. He was moving into his own place for the first time with a roommate, and they went to go cliff diving on Sunday and had such a good time that they went back the next day, which was the 5th of July, and they spent the entire day in the water and swimming and on the shore, but it was very hot. They were actually at Lake Mead, or the Colorado River in Las Vegas in July. So it was 116 degrees that day, and At the end of the day, he went out to get a floaty out of the water and the current ended up pulling him under. It was literally 2 days after he moved out of the house. So we, of course, were devastated. And at this point, I had really come to the place where I was like, I love my husband, I love my daughter, but I'm just tired. I don't want to do this anymore. This is too hard. I can't keep going in this direction. And so about 5 days in, I need to back up a little bit. Before my son left, he had said that he was planning to come home the following weekend for his birthday, which was on the 10th of July. He said, all I really want to do is just come home, hang out with my family and my friends, and just have a little get together at the house. And so when he had passed, we decided that we would throw this birthday party for him anyway. And so we invited a bunch of family and friends to the house, and we were preparing for everybody to come over. This was a Saturday that was his birthday. Well, it had been 5 days since he passed. I hadn't been sleeping well. I hadn't been eating well. And so my husband and my daughter actually insisted that I lay down to take a nap. And so I went into my daughter's room and I laid down, and I was there for about 30 seconds, it felt like. I wasn't asleep yet. And suddenly I heard a voice say to me, keep breathing. We're working on healing your body. Now, this was a little shocking to me. I didn't recognize the voice. I didn't know where it was coming from, but I knew it wasn't coming from outside of me. But I decided just to trust it. So I kept breathing. And then the next thing I knew, started having a life review. Like the screen popped up in front of my visual field. My eyes are still closed at this point, but the screen popped up and suddenly I started going through my life from the moment of me laying on my daughter's bed, taking a nap, and going backwards in time. I quickly went through the major themes and experiences in my life. And it was from the perspective of understanding what it is that I had done and what it is that I had done to the other person in the situation. Was an experience of experiencing it again as myself, but then also experiencing it as the other person that was involved in whatever these major themes were in my life. So one of the major ones for me was my mom and my relationship. We had always had a very rocky relationship after I became an adult. And I got to see the ways that my actions hurt her and the ways that her actions affected me. But it was really from a place of understanding and of compassion and empathy for both of us. And there was no judgment in it at all. It was really me looking at each situation and seeing how I could have done a better job loving that person or even loving myself. That was really the perspective it was from. And it was absolutely beautiful. I got to see the ways that my childhood was affected, how it affected my adult life. I just got to see so much about my life and the ways that I had lived it and could have done a better job. And then from there, I started realizing that my son was nearby. I could sense his presence, and he came in and he said, oh, Mom, I'm so happy you're here. We had to bring you here because you weren't doing very well and we needed to kind of help you reframe your perspective. And so from there, he said he wanted to show me around. We'll just call it heaven for simple terms. But he started taking me around and showing me beautiful places, gardens and Crystal Palace and just all of these amazing places. And then he took me to talk to a council. Now, when I walked into this room, I could see this table before me, and there was about 8 to 10 beings sitting around this semicircle table. I couldn't see what they looked like, but I could feel that they were very wise, that they knew me very well, that I even knew them. And then they started to tell me why I was here. They said, you're not doing very well. You're kind of struggling, and we need you to get back on your path because you actually came to complete a mission. You came to do something. And then they explained to me how my illness was something that I wanted to experience in order to understand empathy and compassion for other people, because that was something that was going to be greatly needed in the work that I was going to be doing, and also how to heal myself from this illness, because I was meant to be a healer in this life. They then went on to show me, different things that would happen in my future, different events, like I would write a book, that I would start a business and I would help people. And I would reach a lot of people all over the world by doing this work, and that this experience that I was going through was going to help push me in that direction and help guide me, and that my son was actually going to guide me as well. And so from there, we left the council and ended up going to another room that was very beautiful. It was full of bright, white, golden light, and the energy in the room was absolutely amazing. Now, I'm saying room, but it really wasn't a room. I'm just using human terms to describe it. But essentially, as soon as we went in there, I realized that I was there to talk to God, that I was there to meet Jesus. And my son was like, "Don't worry, Mom, it's okay. This is fine. You're going to be fine. Just say what just talk to him. It's okay." And so as I went into the room, I saw kind of a platform, and I saw Jesus standing on the platform, and I saw God kind of behind him to the right. And then I saw the Holy Spirit kind of behind him to the left in the background a little bit. I couldn't make out features necessarily. Again, it was very much an energy, but the interesting thing about Jesus was I couldn't see his face, but I could always see his robe and his feet and like his golden tie around his waist, and I could see his sandals, of course. So, but I knew the energy of Jesus. I knew that's who he was. Many years being in the church, once I did finally get into the church, I had developed a relationship with Jesus. I had prayed a lot, and I felt like I was able to communicate with him. I think a lot of Christians probably feel that way. Maybe not. I don't know. And so he was familiar. The conversation we had was like having a conversation with an old friend, someone I had always known. That's how it felt to me. And so I began to ask him questions. Some of the questions I asked, major themes were, is hell real? Are we sinful people that deserve to be punished and sent to hell if we don't believe in you? And he kind of laughed a little bit, and he's like, "No, hell's not real. You can consider it not a place. It's not a place that you go, and it's certainly not a place for punishment at all." And he said, "In fact, let me show you kind of how I view this term hell." He said, "I want you to look over here." And he showed me the earth kind of to the left and below us. And he said, "You see all of those people down on the earth? They're laughing and dancing and having a great time." He said, "These people are having a good time because they wanted to experience what it was like to be separate from God. You see, when you're here, when you're not on earth, you are connected at all times." And that's something that I felt immediately when I first crossed over and realized that I was on the other side, was this feeling of unconditional love and support, and there was no separation from it. It was who I was. I was unconditional love, and everyone around me was unconditional love. And one of the things I noticed as my son was taking me around heaven was that when I would meet somebody, I would instantly know everything about them, and they would instantly know everything about me. It was like we were all merged together, even though we were still separate, if that makes sense. And so as Jesus is explaining this, he's saying when you're here, you're in this state, and so there is no separation from God. You have no understanding what that feels like. And so when you go to earth, some people want to know what it's like to not feel close to God, to feel very separate, to feel as though they're alone, to feel as though they have no support, because in our natural state, we have all of these things all the time. And so he was like, "I don't want you to necessarily feel bad for people who are experiencing this. It's something that they chose to experience, but you can support them through it. You can help them see a different perspective, and you can help them see that anytime they don't want to be in this place anymore, in this state, that they can choose not to, and they can shift themselves out of it." At the time, I also had asked the question about the Antichrist. I had said, is a certain political figure the Antichrist? It was very prevalent in Christianity, and so it was something that was very dominant on my mind. And again, he laughed and he said, "No, this person actually has just come here and agreed to play a role for us. You see, everybody is going through an awakening process. We are all constantly growing and changing, and we come to earth to learn lessons and to understand exactly how it is that our actions affect us and how they affect other people, how positive actions affect things and how negative actions affect things. So this person is actually here to bring up a bunch of stuff that is scary, that is something that a lot of people feel is very harmful and detrimental to people. And he's really here to be a catalyst, to wake us up, to make us realize that we don't need the government, that we don't need, something outside of us in order to make us feel safe, in order to make us understand that we have support and guidance at all times. He's here to show us the things that we want to change about our systems and about our communities and how we can change those things. And he's doing that by showing us the ways that the current systems are harming us. And so he's actually agreeing to do this and taking on a lot of karma by doing this, because when you come and you cause harm to people and you cause despair and destruction, you actually take on karma that you then have to balance out later. So this was a big sacrifice for him to make. He doesn't necessarily know consciously that he's doing it, but it is what he came here to do. And so he said, have compassion for him, because somebody had to do this for us. Somebody had to show us these things so we would want to change them, and so we would learn and grow from it and not stay in the places that we've been. And I just thought that was absolutely amazing. And then from there, suddenly I realized I was back in my body, and I heard what I now know was an angel saying to me, I need you to keep breathing because I'm going to start to slow down your heartbeat in order to heal you. And I could literally feel my heartbeat slowing down, and it just kept getting slower and slower and slower. And at one point I was very nervous because I thought maybe I was going to die in this process. And I think I did in some way. And essentially what the angel said to me is, we're doing an energetic healing on your body. Your illness and your perspective have caused you to be in such a low place that this is almost like an energetic reset for your body. We need to go in and change the energy of your body. We need to reframe your perspective. And in order to do this, I just need to slow your heartbeat down quite a bit. And then once it got to a point where it was barely beating, I noticed that it suddenly started to speed up again and slowly came back to a normal heartbeat. And at that point, I remember waking up. Now, I had gotten up and I went straight into my son's room. And as I'm looking at the posters on his wall, and, he had whiteboard with like messages written on it and all of these things, because he was always kind of an entrepreneurial mind. He wanted to start his own business, and he had like a marketing calendar that he had up, and I'm walking through his room looking at all this stuff, just trying to feel close to him again. Like, I just spoke to him, I just had an amazing experience with him, but I just wanted to be around his stuff. And suddenly I felt like I was getting all of these messages from these things on his wall or things he had written on post-it notes. And he's talking to me. He's like, Mom, pay attention to the marketing calendar. When you start your business, you're going to do this on the days that I've marked here for you. I left this for you. Mom, I want you to focus on this over here. It's going to be important. And this continued. So from there, I went to tell my husband what had happened. And when I went to talk to him, I'm trying to explain this to him, but I'm trying to do it quickly because we have a ton of people coming to the house that day. So he immediately says, what is wrong with you? Like, you don't even seem like the same person. You have almost this, like, what did he say? Like childish energy about you. And even your voice is different. He's like, what happened? And I'm trying to explain it to him, but he's just not really getting it. And so we decide to table the conversation and go and start, to prepare for people to come over. So that day, as people start to come in, it was a lot of family and friends that we knew, but it was also a lot of my son's friends that I had never met before. But what I noticed is when they would come in and I would greet people, I would start giving them messages. At the time, I thought it was from Cameron, but later on, I was told that that actually wasn't true. They were coming through me, not from Cameron. But I would do this for so many people coming into my house to, give us condolences, of course, and just to celebrate our son's life. I did this for like 2 hours. I was later told that there were over 200 people that came through my house that day, and I just kept giving people messages. I don't remember anymore what any of them were, but I do remember the reactions that people had when I would give them a message. Sometimes I think it was stuff from my son that they needed to know, but it was also messages for them about their lives and something that was helpful or would be healing for them to know. And then from there, I pretty much stayed in a state where I felt like I still had carried some of the other side with me. It put me into a place of psychosis where I was half here and half still over there. I was still getting messages from my son. I was talking to him constantly, but I was also getting messages from now what I understand to be my guides. They were telling me to pay attention to things. They were showing me future events. They would continue to show me future events that were going to be happening in the world and that I would lose a lot of people in the process. And it was just a whole lot going on. I felt like I could telepathically communicate with people on the street. I was giving away all of my stuff. I was giving away my money. I was like, I don't need this stuff anymore. This is not necessary. Like, everything's beautiful. To me, it was beautiful and amazing, but to my poor family and especially my husband, it was even more devastation for him because he's like, I just lost my son and now my wife is acting crazy and I have to babysit her and I don't know if she's ever going to come out of this. Like, did this break her? Very valid, very valid concerns. And so this was very traumatic for him, obviously, but to me, I thought it was amazing. I mean, I was talking to Jesus. He was telling me I needed to go out into the desert and pray and meditate for 3 days so I could know what my mission was going to be. And I'm literally wandering out into the desert and my husband's having to chase me and have people watch me. It was a lot. But when I finally did come back fully into my body and the psychosis settled down and things went back to normal, that's when the grief really stepped in for me. That's when everything really hit me. I didn't believe I was healed. I had this religion that I had relied on up to this point, and now that I've met Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit in this experience, and he kind of shattered what I understood about religion. And one of the things I didn't mention is he told me a lot of ways that the Bible and that Christianity had been changed and manipulated, and that he never really intended for there to be a religion built around him. He was really trying to come here and teach us how to be like him, not to follow him and not to be a slave, I guess, to religion or even to the systems, that we have our own free will, that we choose what we want to do, and that we are not dirty or evil or deserve to be punished for anything. So as the grief settled in and the time off that we took from my son passing, my husband had lost his job. I then lost my job. We had to move out of our house. Literally, our whole lives crumbled around us. Our daughter, we moved out of the state, and our daughter decided she didn't want to go with us. She wanted to stay where she was close to our son and where she could go to the places that they had gone together because they were best friends. This was devastating for her too. And so we went from being a close-knit family living together to now my husband and I are empty nesters living in another state without either one of our kids, and we're just grieving. And so we literally collapsed. We literally fell apart, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't have my religion to support me. I didn't know if I should be praying to God or not. I didn't know if Jesus was even, going to support me anymore. I had no idea how this was going to work. And so I just felt so alone. I felt like I don't even have my religion. How am I supposed to get through the loss of my son? It felt absolutely impossible. But at the same time, I suddenly had this insatiable drive to find out, what did I just experience? What is it that I went through? Do other people go through this? I hadn't heard of near-death experiences at this point, so I really had no concept. And so I started looking for religious reasons that this would happen. Why would Jesus come to me in this way? And I looked for quite a while. I was refusing to look at anything New Age or spirituality because my indoctrination had taught me that it was evil and that people were speaking to demons and all the things that people say. And eventually, after some period of time, I ran across a video on YouTube talking about spiritual awakenings and how they're triggered by traumatic events, oftentimes a loss or some significant life event that causes us to start asking the big questions. There's got to be more to this. There's got to be more to just going to a job and raising kids and cooking dinner and cleaning up and doing it all over again the next day. And so when I watched this video, it opened up a whole new world to me, and I was willing to start looking into it and deconstructing my religion at the same time, finding out all of the ways that things had been changed and manipulated to control us, but also having a closer relationship to Jesus than I had ever had. Now, at this point, I began to start communicating with my spirit guides. I didn't know fully what they were at the time, but they began to give me messages again. It was similar to after my awakening experience. I began to communicate. I first started doing it through automatic writing, and then I began to channel my guides. I had met Archangel Gabriel as my first guide, and then my primary guide Sananda had come through, and he really, really helped me through automatic writing and then eventually channeling to heal so much of myself, to heal my thought patterns, my belief systems, to understand the ways that I had created this illness in order to teach me lessons and to show me ways to be compassionate for myself, which I failed miserably at. I was so angry at my body for failing me for so many years. I hated myself. I hated my body. I hated all of the ways that it had let me down and failed me and made it so I couldn't be a good wife or mother or live this life that I wanted to live. There was so much beauty in it, but here I am stuck in bed, not able to walk or drive on so many occasions, not able to eat food. It just made me understand that we are so powerful. When I contrast religion compared with spirituality and all that I have learned from my guides, you're going from a place of disempowerment, of looking outside of yourself to understand who you are, of giving all of your power away to another being, while also at the same time feeling as though you're dirty and sinful and you provide no value unless you believe in this other being, and that's the only way that you can be clean and be accepted by God. To now I understand that I am so powerful. I literally create my own illness. I literally create my life, what it is I want to experience through my thoughts and beliefs and emotions. And it took me so long to understand this. When my guide was first explaining it to me, in fact, I felt like it was a cruel joke. I was like, you're kidding me. This is insane. Of course I didn't create this illness. And I really just want to cuss you out for even saying it in the first place. But as time went on and I began to understand this better, I realized that I would pull in my illness at times when I felt like I was overwhelmed or couldn't accomplish something. A perfect example of this is expectations from people. So at work, I would be an amazing worker, be working on a project, be doing an amazing job, but as soon as I had a deadline that I needed to commit to, I was so terrified that I couldn't meet the deadline and that I wouldn't do a good job and that I would be exposed as a fraud, if you will, that I would call in my illness and I would suddenly get sick and not be able to complete it. Now, I have to go back and say that after I woke up from this awakening experience, I was actually in remission for about 3 years. I no longer had any symptoms. I went to my doctor and he said, there's no sign of disease here at all. You're in remission. But then last year, I suddenly started developing all of my old symptoms again. Again, I was frustrated. I was like, I thought I was healed. What do you mean? What does this even mean? You healed me and now I'm sick again. Was I ever really healed? Was I just delusional? Did I actually have a psychotic break? It just didn't make sense to me. And that's when my guide was very much like, no, this is what's happening. This is why you're doing this. If you heal these beliefs within you about not being able to meet an expectation, then you won't need to call this illness in anymore to keep you safe, because that's what you think it's doing. You're calling it in because you're benefiting from it in some way. You're calling it in because you don't think you can face things in your life. You don't think you're strong enough. You don't think you have enough within you to do this. And so it's an escape route for you. You hate it at the same time, but it still feels safer to you because you know it than this expectation that you may not be able to meet. And honestly, after I really started to understand that concept, it threw me for a loop for a long time. It really made me question everything about my life and what I was creating based on my beliefs and what I was calling in other areas of my life, the ways that I would talk to myself and tell my body that I hated it and be so disappointed in it, and learning that, your body is listening to you. Your consciousness activates your body in a way, and it listens to your thoughts, and it listens to how you perceive it and what you feel about it, and it reacts accordingly. I think, if you look at studies with water, people have shown that when you speak to water in negative ways, it reacts a certain way, versus in positive ways, it acts a certain way. Plants, you can find this experiment with so many different things that are living in the world, that the thoughts and the beliefs and the things that you say matter. It affects the reality of that being, and it affects your body as well. It has been quite a journey, and my guides have really helped me work through so many things, and I've come to a place now where I understand it more. I've healed so many things in myself. They provided me so many tools to do this, ways that I can understand myself better, or practices that I can do in order to release trauma and to release stuck energy in my body, that I've now turned it into a practice where I help people to do this. I use the tools that my guides have given, and I even channel spirit guides in order to give information to people about how they can do the same thing in their lives. So that's essentially where I've landed at this point. It's been a beautiful journey, but one of so many ups and downs, and so many cycles of healing and integrating, and healing and integrating, and understanding that the experience that we're here to live is one of duality. We're here to understand the amazing things and to understand the things that are hard for us, the challenges that we need to overcome. And it is in this exploration of this duality of living here on earth that we come to understand ourselves better, that we come to understand other people better, that we come to realize that everything is happening to teach us these lessons about ourselves, and to teach us about other people, and how to love ourselves more and forgive ourselves more, and how to love and forgive other people more. And it's in doing this, which funny enough is the exact message that Jesus taught us. It heals us, it heals other people, and it heals the world that we live in. It is all connected. We are all one, even though we come here to experience separation. I really do believe that had I not had this experience, it probably would have been much more difficult for me to grasp. Being able to have this experience with my son and with God, and to be able to communicate with him still to this day anytime I want to, has brought me so far along in that journey. But what I will say is, what I've learned after going through this process and coming to where I am now, I'm not through it completely, is that these things occur for us to push us in certain directions. I now understand that my son and I had made an agreement to do this, that he had agreed to leave early in order to come to the other side and to help me to do this work for other people. But I also understand that many parents who have lost children don't get this opportunity. They don't have these kind of experiences. And so how do you get past grief and loss like this without it? And what I could say is, you need to feel the grief. You need to be in the grief. You need to honor your human experience. You need to understand that this is part of the process. It is a loss to us. It is a great loss. And even when you understand that they're not lost, that they're literally right here with you at all times still, even though you can't see them, maybe you can't communicate with them, that they're never far from you, that they are always around. They're with you in your special events, in your hardest times, in your happiest times, when you're with family. They are always around you. But also, to come back to joy is really about accepting where you are, accepting what has happened, and understanding that eventually you will see them again, and the things that they can help you with from the other side are so beautiful, and that you're never alone and you always have support. And so I have gotten to this place now where I still grieve him all the time. I do. I have my moments where I just fall apart, even though I can talk to him anytime I want to. And I honor that. And I just let the emotions go through me, and I just feel it, and I cry out, and I tell him how much I miss him and how angry I am that he's not here. It's just really important for you to honor all of your emotions and just to work through the process, no matter how long it takes you, no matter what way you cope with it or deal with it. Honor that experience and love yourself through it. Understand that you did nothing wrong to cause it. Understand that there was nothing you could have done, maybe even to prevent it, that this was something that this person, as their own sovereign soul being, decided that they wanted to experience as part of their life. My son chose to leave early. He chose to leave early, and he chose to be a catalyst for me, to awaken my family, to do the work that I'm doing now. And it's beautiful, even though I miss him every single day. My guides have really helped me to understand this as a couple things. One is that we all come into this life with a plan for major themes that we want to explore as we're living on Earth. And for me, one of those themes was illness. For some people it's addiction, for other people it's family drama. I mean, there's lots of things that a soul could choose to experience through their lifetime. Now, as we're going through our lifetime, the reason we choose to experience these things is because we want to understand it. We want to understand how it affects us, and we want to understand how to heal it. What my guides have shown me is that most illnesses that we have within us are because of our belief systems, are because of what it is that we believe about ourselves, what it is that we say to ourselves, what it is that we wanted to experience. And so, for example, for me, they told me, let me try to reframe this. I want to get the messaging right here because this is a big deal to me, so I want to make sure I express this correctly. You come here to experience something, but it is not just in the experiencing it that you are meant to go through. It is also in the overcoming of it. One of the biggest things that a soul enjoys is having a challenge and overcoming it. And so for me, this was a huge challenge, my illness was. But I know now that the reason that it was there is because I had all of these beliefs about myself, that I was not powerful, that I was a victim because of all of these things that had happened in my life, all of the ways that I give my power away to religion or to my job or even to a spouse, all of the ways that I disempower myself. I was meant to come here and experience all of this disempowerment so I could then learn the truth about who I really am, that I am powerful, that I can change this anytime I want to, that I don't need to continue to believe these things about myself. I don't need to continue to talk to myself in this way, to treat my body in a way that it doesn't feel loved and supported by me. And so it is in this healing and it is in this overcoming that I can choose to now not allow this illness in anymore, not allow it to affect my life anymore. And this is trouble. The mind has a lot of trouble processing this, right? It feels like a cruel joke. It feels insane. It feels like, what do you mean I called in my cancer and then I can just choose not to have it anytime I want? But that's just the reality. That's just how this incarnation process works. And if you can come to a place where you can examine your beliefs, where you can examine your emotions and how you deal with the challenges in your life and heal those and come to a place of love and sovereignty and empowerment, then you will find that this illness will heal itself. Because everything that we feel inside of us, that our mind thinks, that our emotions bring out, that our thoughts bear, is energetic. And it causes energy changes within our body. And so we can actually, if we, for instance, think that we are not powerful, that energetically causes a change within a certain part of your body. And if it's there for long enough, it will create a disease behind it, because it's a disharmony within your body. If you're speaking to your body in a negative way, you're causing disharmony within your body, and your body will react to that. And so this is why energetic healings work, because there's two parts to the body system. There's the physical body, but there's also the energetic body. And if you can heal the energetic body, it will also heal the physical body. And so my guides have shown me this. This is why Reiki work. This is why my guides were able to heal me during my experience for 3 years, because this is real. Everything is energy. And so it's about getting back to what you believe and how you treat your body and how you talk to your body, and overcoming those challenges and coming back to love for yourself and honoring yourself and respecting yourself and your body. And that ultimately will bring about healing within the physical body. And it's hard for me to say this out loud still, even though I know it to be true, because I know the reaction it's going to bring out in people. It brought it out in me, and it took me a lot of time to understand this and even believe it to be true. But then after a couple iterations of watching myself go through this process, after my guides explained to me that's what I was doing, I could see the ways that I was doing it. And also in my sessions that I do with people, I see the ways that healing it changes them physically. By doing energetic healings and by getting down to the root of the emotions and the beliefs that are causing the illness in the first place, I watch these changes happen with people. And so now I have no choice but to believe it. But the mind is a powerful thing, and emotions are extremely powerful as well. That's how we manifest our reality between those two. And so once you understand that and can begin to change those patterns, I think you'll see it for yourself as well. Yeah, so you can find me at my website and all of my social media, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, at Healing with Cam. Healing with Cam is something that actually came to me from my guides. My son's name was Cameron. My name is Camille, and so because he's here to do this work with me and to help me to do these healing sessions with people, he actually suggested the name. So Healing with Cam is what it is. And I just want to say one more thing. I think it's really important for people to understand who may be watching this in my story and other people's stories as well. I think these stories are absolutely beautiful. My experience was absolutely amazing and beautiful, and I loved it, and it has helped me process so much. But I can understand how people watching these stories that are so amazing and beautiful and all the healing that it brought can leave you feeling as though you're not experiencing them. So what's wrong with you? Why am I not able to have these type of experiences too? Am I not worthy of this? Am I not, capable of having this type of thing happen to me? Why do I need to continue to suffer? And I want to encourage everyone that, when we share these stories, they are beautiful, but there's so much that's left out of the context, so much suffering, so much inner work, so much reflection, so much time crying in the dark and feeling hopeless in the process, that when we come to tell the story, though it sounds beautiful, it leaves all of those things out. And so I just want to encourage people to take my story and others like it as proof that this stuff is real, as proof that the universe is supporting you, and that no matter what challenge you're going through, that you have support, that you are not alone, and that your loved ones, if they have passed over, are with you and supporting you as well. And if in your darkest moments you could just hold on to that, even if you can't believe it, even if you can't feel it, even if you don't understand it, just hold on to that until you can get yourself through that moment. Try not to push away the emotions, because you just keep calling them back to you when you do that. Allow them to flow through you and then leave. This is important for making sure you don't make yourself sick from the emotions that you're holding on to, because it's in holding on to them that we hold that energy within our body, and that's what ultimately makes us sick. So love the stories, love the beautiful experiences people go through, but also love yourself just as you are. Love everything that you're going through, and just know that you'll get through this challenge because you've gotten through every single challenge before this, and you're gonna be okay eventually. Just hold on. If that's all you can do, is just hold on. It's something that I see so much in the spiritual community, all of these amazing experiences and stories and beautiful things. And I think people get addicted to it because they like the feeling of it and knowing that this is out there and that it's real and it's a possibility. But I also think so often it causes people to feel disempowered and look at them as though if they're not experiencing these things, there must be something wrong with them. And I don't love that about the spiritual community, especially when it comes to social media like YouTube and such. It doesn't do a good job of showing both sides of the coin, and can leave people feeling quite upset and not good. So I think it's really important for people to just remember that we are all human, that we all have our challenges that we go through, and even with beautiful experiences, your life can fall apart right behind it. So we are always going to go through ups and downs. We are always going to have challenges, but if you can reframe your perspective from, why is this happening to me? Why am I being punished? Why is this not happening to me? As it is happening this way in order to get you to look at yourself and to love yourself more. That is the whole point of everything we go through. How can we love ourselves more? How are we giving our power away? How is it that we're not honoring our sovereignty? And to learn to get through the challenges and come out the other side better at understanding ourselves. And I think if we can take it from that perspective and not see it as punishment, it helps us to get through the really, really hard times.